Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Colin Wolfe of Smooth Retsina Glow. The band has just released a fantastic new record. It is called Gemini Reign. I'm super excited to talk to them all about it. Colin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day after what sounds to have been a super busy weekend. How are you doing today? What's going on?
Just enjoying downtime, like I was saying. We did 6 shows this weekend, and we put out our record last week. One was 3 shows in a day. We had a morning show, we had an afternoon show, and then we had a late evening show in the basically like from the Lehigh Valley where we're based out of. It
Yeah,
was towards sort of the halfway point between the Lehigh Valley and Philadelphia. Then we went up to the Poconos to play this resort. Then we went back to our hometown here in Bethlehem, where we play this venue that we have a monthly residency called the F&A Grog House, and
nice.
that was so bookended, if you like, with a Thursday and Friday show, and then we had a Sunday gig. And
Got it.
it's only 3 shows, but it's still
Hey, you know
it's,
what?
it,
Yeah. I
it's
feel
still
like you're
um,
coming down off a massive adrenaline rush of just going,
yeah,
going, going the entire weekend, especially a
yeah.
holiday weekend, that's for sure.
It was a pretty good turnout for that, considering it was a holiday weekend. Because
That's good.
Memorial Day or some of the other things can be a bit hit or miss, but turnout was pretty effective. You know,
Nice.
so this weekend and for the most part of this month, it's usually 5 or 3. I think the lowest week we have is maybe 2 in the second to last week of this month, which is okay.
Nice.
'Cause
Yeah, I mean,
our
hey, you're getting out there, you're doing the thing. There are
getting
people
out
that are
there.
always trying to get out there.
And also just trying to enjoy life and enjoy the summer, dare I say, because
Yes, exactly.
enjoy
Gotta
all that
live
music.
and enjoy life.
Yeah,
I
you have to
totally
enjoy
get
life,
it.
and that's how you also recharge, or how I
Yeah,
recharge
right.
better.
And I can only imagine that you probably feel a sense of relief having now had this record out to the world because of how much goes into it leading up to the actual release date. How do you feel? How does it feel with this thing being live and real now?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we've done in the last couple of years, especially. It's been a culmination of what we've really learned from, I would say, 21 through 22 on how to release a single properly, how to get it
Sure.
uh, each single its most splash, and how to expedite it properly. Because we started this process back in January. We started recording the record back in September of last year, and we
Jeez.
did it on and off. We were gigging, and we also switched studios halfway through for reasons we'll get into later on. Because the backstory
Sure.
to this record is pretty interesting in its own way.
And that's
And
what I want to hear about. I want to hear like how it was made, what's it
mhm.
about, basically any super important information you think people need to know before they hit the play button. Let's hear
Okay,
it.
so like I said, this is our fourth record. We've all self-released the records. We formed in 2019, survived the pandemic, and surprisingly, we've made a yeah, that's not
Yeah.
exactly the best time to be an up-and-coming group in a
Nope.
global health crisis.
Yes.
It's like no one in music school gave me advice on how to survive in a pandemic. So I'm sort
Exactly.
of,
Yeah, I must have missed that class. That's
yeah, I
okay.
think that should be something moving ahead, having lockdown courses on how to survive, because
Very smart.
I graduated in 2015, and something
Sure.
of that magnitude was the last thing I would have ever fathomed in my most warped imagination. But
Yeah.
that being said, we got through it, and the good thing about it was we were able to use the lockdowns for writing, and we even did a fair share of gigging when we were in our duo configuration.
Nice. Okay.
So the group in its current iteration is comprised of myself, our co-backing vocalist Sarah Stoll, Jacob Wolf, our bass player, who I'm not related to because he's got an E at the end of his name.
Got it.
It's a
Good
good
to
kind.
know.
It's funny when we're introducing him live. I can always say with an E on his end, so if they want
Wolf with an E. And it's like,
very
oh,
much
so
like that.
cool. Yeah,
Very
exactly.
much like that. And Brian Durkis, our drummer, and originally Jacob was a student of mine because I'm also a private teacher outside of music.
Oh, okay.
So I met him through a studio I was working with, and in our early 2019 days, he was assisting us as a sort of a sub fill-in player. Then he went off to college,
Sure.
and we changed our lineup in mid 22,
Yeah.
and then we brought on him again. Brian Jerkis, our drummer, has been with part of us since about March of 21. And so when we got the lineup together, we put out a record in 22 called Metaphysical, which did pretty well. The one thing about that
Yeah.
record didn't have anything that I think really splashed like this record has with our two singles that we put out, Overcoming and Bound by Desire,
Yeah.
as far as its critical outreach, acclaim, and record play around the world. So we started recording the record in 22, and it was the first record where we were going without our normal engineer who did our first 3 records because he wanted to take some time off and do a side venture away from music. So
Yeah.
we worked with this one guy who we did manage to do 2 songs with, but things weren't really clicking. And then he and his production assistant accused me of basically slandering him behind his back. And it was just, yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It was weird vibe there. So
Sure.
we ended that project there a little bit, but we'd still had a couple songs out of it. And we took took cues from this friend of ours who pointed us to this guy on the south side of Bethlehem named Matt Mulcahy, who has a studio called Shards. And we had cooled our heels from about November to about early January. And we then booked the time to finish off the record. And we had about 8 more songs to cut there, in addition to the 2 that we got out of our September, October sessions. And right away, it was a very effective process. It wasn't rushed, but at the same time, it was paced just nicely. And I would say within about 5 or 6 sessions, we had the whole record cut in early May.
Amazing.
No, I meant early March, pardon me.
Okay.
And then between Matt and myself, he engineered and I produced all the other songs.
Nice.
So it's like a joint effort between that. And the singles process, we started with a song called Overcoming back in January, which did better than we could have ever thought because we got a write-up in Reelix magazine, which I've got over there.
Very cool.
We also got, the cool thing about that was King Gizzard was on the cover, and that's one of our favorite groups. So it was like,
they are my favorite group.
They're incredible. They're definitely
they're the best
of the modern era.
Oh,
I just
100%.
would put out so much music because it's like once you get into one of their records, they throw another one out, and then you have to.
There's no time to sit with anything. It's just it goes.
Let's do 3 albums again this year. It's like, okay,
that's okay. You know what?
Especially like 2018, they didn't do a single record after they did the 5, and they got the Gumboot Soup out on New Year's Eve. Which
exactly.
This is.
Yeah, I've actually got a Gumboot Soup tattoo.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan. Funny because one of the songs has a Gizzard influence to it for sure. But then we followed up with this other single called "Bound by Desire." We put out in April, and again, it's not just as far as critical reviews, but it got global airplay all around the world.
Amazing.
Like stations in Sweden, Norway, Japan, Banks Radio, and Australia has.
You're doing the thing.
Second consecutive #1, and last couple, I guess it was last month now, because it's now July. We put out a song called "Turn to Hubris," and the album dropped around June 21st. So
amazing.
But as far as having a 6-month promotional process, it definitely was the most logically conducted. Each single had its best time to develop, and it's definitely moving ahead as we build upon this. We sort of have a formula of how to do things in a productive way without rushing it too much, because you'll never
understand. No, that's the perfect background. What I really want to know is, like, obviously I think people's first impressions on this record is going to be instrumentally. It's beautiful. Like it almost not detracts from your lyrics, but like first I would recommend people listen with a nice pair of headphones, because there's obviously the production is killer and there's so much going on. But the more times that I've come back to it, I've been trying to make connections within your words. Like,
okay,
how does it work on the songwriting portions? Is it a little bit of everyone? Is it just you? And like, what are these songs about?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a concept record, although I do like to try to have each song sort of tie into one another a little bit. Not quite ready for concept record yet, but you know, for the people who have the physical product, they'll know it's just pretty much it's all 10 songs that I write. But I should also say that I don't necessarily just come in with like a fully notated score, even though I do have lead sheets for the group to
Yeah,
look with. And they are invited to come up with whatever contribution
of
they can make
course.
as far as the arrangement style. So it's basically I come up with the basic songs. I have a pretty clear idea of how I want the rhythm to be.
Okay,
I have a key that I'll write in that's a couple of keys that I'll write in that's comfortable for me. And the rest of the group can have input on how do we contour and arrange the songs if we need to add one thing or take one thing out to make it more malleable. And I also look upon that as a little bit of the process in the sense that I know at this point what the guys are going to be able to do to internalize the material and interpret it the way they have it, as opposed to
sure.
saying, okay, listen to this track and now you just copy this and they'll do their variation on it, so
Yeah,
to
no,
speak.
that completely makes sense.
Uh,
Not that it's one-sided in the creation, but it does kind of sound like everyone does bring their own thing into the mix.
I
Whereas
would,
like you're still kind of like I'm gonna say leading the charge, but kind of like directing in a way.
fair enough. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Conduct whatever you want.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah. It's a one thing because it just sort of fell in by happenstance. It's like the drummer doesn't write because it's kind of hard to write a chord progression on drum unless
True.
you have a keyboard background or you also
Yeah.
play like
Yeah, I
something.
suppose.
Bass, you can to a certain extent, and it just sort of always has seemed like they sort of look to me to bring in the material, which I'm perfectly okay with doing.
Yeah.
It's not really like something that I feel like, oh, why aren't these guys contributing or anything like that. It's
That's
like,
good.
I'll
Yeah.
just keep writing. I'm okay with it, but
Okay.
at the same time, I always welcome the input like that. I always tell them if you think the sounds like anything we've done before, it's like because everyone eventually falls into certain ruts as a composer or songwriter, no matter how
Completely understand.
creative you are. There's always a certain inevitability. You're going to have certain cadences or ways to resolve it or things like that that are liable to come up. And one thing that I've always thought, if I know most I'm going to be outside of my box a little bit if I do something that I hadn't thought of previously, whether it's like
For
a
sure.
resolution or something that's not like habitual, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's to me when I think you're in the moment or you're being the most creative as a writer,
Yeah.
for my thinking, or
That makes
anybody.
sense. I totally understand that. As
Mhm.
far as the dynamic goes when the group, do you find that your guys' individual music tastes have any impact on the music that you're making?
Yeah,
I hear it from you obviously, but I feel
yeah.
like in a band setting, it's tough because everyone has their own preferences and you can only lead the band so many ways in making so many sounds.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing because everyone's predisposed towards their own artists that they enjoy. Like Jacob, our
Sure.
bass player, really enjoys Ghost. He wears
Okay.
He wears Ghost t-shirts just about to every concert that you see him at.
Sure.
And Brian, our drummer, is heavily into Avenged Sevenfold, so
Okay.
we already have a heavier elements. And I enjoy those groups a little bit, quite a bit myself. But I also lean a little bit towards, I suppose, modern psych rock, like King Gizzard or
Yeah.
Underworld Orchestra,
Sure.
Karabin, however you pronounce it. I just heard that you had a. Is it pronounced Karub now?
Krungbin.
Krungbin, thank you.
It's all good. I
See,
think that
imagine
is the
taking it
official
somewhere.
pronunciation.
Krungbin. Okay, thank you. I
Yes.
can only imagine what they were trying to be introduced
Yeah.
the day
They're
when they.
making it complicated for themselves. Let's be honest here. I would
Okay,
say like 99% of people have no idea. And I was like, I'm going to find a video. I'm going to listen to them say it. And then that's what I'm going to go with. So,
okay, all right.
but I
So
think you and I definitely, not that I don't dislike those bands, I definitely have listened to them in the past and listened to them semi frequently. I think you and I vibe a lot more in that sense where I think the psych rock sound is absolutely prevalent on this record,
yeah,
but there's also like every song is different. You've managed to create still a cohesion in the record, which is so difficult to do. But at the
true.
same time, like every song has its own personality, which is also so difficult to do.
Yeah, in our early two records, we had that problem a little bit where it just sounded like it was too diverse for its own good. Like there was this one record,
Sure.
21, where it was like, okay, one of the reviews said something to the effect of, I like hearing bands that do stuff that are diverse, but occasionally it's too diverse, but at the same time,
Right.
they have the right idea. So that was just something we've learned in the past 2 years of how to bring the things together and not make it so overt as far as
Sure.
like we're changing genres or anything like that. This one, especially these last two records, it's all basically a psych rock record with some more progressive music overtones at times.
Totally. Yeah,
But
that's normally a question I ask is like, how would you like what's your elevator pitch for the record? But like that's kind of it right there. That I
yeah.
think just about sums it up. Obviously there's leeway to what people interpret it to,
Mhm.
but if that's up your alley, and even if it's not, I still say give it a listen because yeah, it's got a
Yeah.
little bit of everything in it.
Yeah, and there's also a good amount of light and shade. Like there's slower songs, there's faster songs, and they're all, for the most part, pretty easy to do live. There's
Sure.
one track that unfortunately you still have to find the right venue to do live because it's
Yeah.
there's only one venue in this area that'll do it because it's a little more, A, it's an all original club, and two, the people are gonna be there to listen for music as opposed to some cover song, which we're okay
I
to do.
understand. Yeah.
It's like the Grog House where you have to
Right.
throw something out to the college students, and
Yep, that's a very real thing.
totally fine.
Yeah, that's cool. You
I know.
you do with what you can.
Mhm.
Um, so we're like a few days officially past the halfway point of this year, which is crazy because I'm sure that you've had I mean, what it
Yeah.
sounds like just the wildest year.
So
Um,
far, yeah, it's been great. It's gone way too
yeah,
fast, unfortunately.
right. So what's the back half looking like? Obviously, I feel like shows are in the works, but anything else going on worth mentioning?
Yeah, so pretty much we're just filling in the last couple of dates of our year. We graduated to gigging more Thursdays now, as well as
Okay,
Wednesdays even. So it's definitely becoming more and more full time than just the weekends. Because like I would
awesome.
say last year we did pretty much every Friday and Saturday, few Thursdays, especially in the summer, but this year and we've started getting more shows on the Thursdays and even on the Wednesday gigs now.
Awesome.
And Sundays as well. The big thing for this summer that any people on the East Coast who are listening right now should check us out for is for this event called Music Fest, which is in the Lehigh Valley. It's in Bethlehem,
Okay,
and our slot is going to be on Saturday, August 12th from 6:30 to 8. And it will be the first time we've ever played on a Saturday there because we started for 21. We
sure.
did Monday, then we started to Thursday, and then we graduated to Saturday. And, we got this pretty good stage, I
Yeah,
would so. And, so it's a big step up, and that's partnered with this organization called Arts Quest Center, and they also give us things at certain intervals for like fall festivals or
yeah.
time events or what have you. And of course, on this, I will definitely be writing for something in 24. I've already started a bit of a process, although I don't want
Yeah.
King Gizzard and just
No, 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 no. You got to pace yourself. You don't have, five other guys behind you all contributing too in that,
Yeah, I
in
mean,
a
I guess
full-time
that's another
capacity.
reason to do that because, but at the same time,
Yeah.
now that this is out, and I might consider doing another single off it just to give it extra runoff time
Yeah.
because single process has worked pretty effectively, and I think there might be another thing that we release probably around September-ish or so, just to give it a
Yeah.
little extra inertia. But certainly I will be writing more music, and I would say October we would be probably going back in the studio, but it wouldn't be like we're just gonna cut the whole album right there and then it's gonna
Yeah.
be pieced. And I would say if we have probably 3 or 4 sessions before year's end from October to December, we could have four tracks that we could release for a
Oh,
single, which is that's
yeah.
once you have those out, you can just those will buy enough time for you to just evenly pace yourself and then just
Absolutely.
on its own end. And we also have a pseudo management, if you want to call it. They're called From the Depths, and they just basically
Okay.
or social posts and things like that. So
Nice. All
the
right.
other thing is that more and more people in the industry are talking to us, and they're also saying things like, we will submit your song and we'll put it on this compilation with all these other artists, sort of like what you did with the Relics magazine.
Sure.
I have met a couple of people who weren't so legit. Once you look into their backgrounds and you say, okay, I guess there's a reason why all these reviews aren't so positive, shall
Yeah,
we say.
I understand.
Um, I think that's another aspect that has developed in the past year or so is now we're getting more and more people from the industry, and I take them all with a grain of salt
Of
because
course.
it's like, okay, that's basically something what everybody has told me every other time, and
Right.
we'll see. But
I
I
mean,
think,
at the least, it sounds like there's a lot in the works and a lot upcoming. Uh,
yeah,
and you strike me as a person who never stops, obviously, performing
yeah,
every weekend in
I'm
this
a
event.
workaholic in that sense.
Yeah, hey, listen,
I'm
it's a good thing
private.
and a bad thing as long as you're not burning out. But obviously, the final product speaks for itself here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing like Brian Wilson,
Oh
insane,
yeah,
secluding myself for like weeks on end or
sure,
doing
sure.
wacky self-destructive behavior like that.
Yeah,
Although I have a part of that in my
you know,
work ethic, even though I'm not gonna
it's good in small
totally
doses. Small doses.
small doses. I mean, obviously
Exactly.
one Brian Wilson, but
Right. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a whole
it only
different
should.
story. Um, Colin, I have one more question for you. The
Mhm.
question is basically for the person that is going to discover you guys from this. What is an opening message that you'd like to say to them before they listen to this record for the first time?
Highly recommend that you listen to us because not only are whatever you want to say, each track has its own entity. Are a band that can put creativity into something that is accessible for the public and something that people are going to remember. It's not just music that we're putting out for our own entertainment, and whatever your niche is, you'll find something in our repertoire that you'll enjoy. And the fact that we are as performing as hard as we do speaks something. It's not like we play one show and then we never get called back. We get booked back. We're at the point where we can now pick and choose our work, where we
That's
can
awesome.
say, okay, you'll have to up the wage a little bit,
Yeah,
or see ya, you know.
seriously.
Uh,
I think that's a great
there's a
answer.
reason why we work so hard. So I would
Right.
say anybody just give a couple of our songs a spin. You'll hear why we're as busy as we are.
I love that. That's honestly such a great answer. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time. It really means a lot. Um,
Hmm.
please let me plug your record for you one more time here. If you guys missed it the first time around, this album is called Gemini Reign, and we will have the links in our articles that you can listen and share and follow along. And if you are on the East Coast, I feel like you can catch you guys at any time, but the best place to find you is your social media. And I want to thank you again. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Colin.
Well, pleasure is mine, Austin. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I hope to speak soon.
I'll zoom later.
All right. Bye bye.